now it's up to them.
And Mr. Lappy, just finally before we let you go, thank you so much for taking so much of your time. Can I just ask you your opinion of the United Kingdom's response, our Prime Minister's initial response yesterday, which neither condemned nor condoned Israel's action?
Well, I think the international community understands this the way it is, which is on one hand two great democracies, the United States, of course, and Israel, defending themselves, defending the region against a rogue government or a rogue country that is out of its mind in ways, trying to defend ourselves. And I think we appreciate the fact that the United Kingdom is involved in the air defense mechanism of the whole operation. It is, and deeds are more important than words, and therefore I will settle for what we can have from the United Kingdom at this point.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. That's Leader of the Opposition in Israel, Yair Lapid. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much. Okay, I could see you nodding along by my side there, Vahid. Vahid Beheshti is still with me, protester, activist, Iranian dissident, and your own cousin was murdered by this regime just a few weeks ago. So thank you so much for coming in to talk. Obviously, this is very, very personal. But you were nodding along to what you heard just now in that interview.
So one other side of me, as you all know it, I am the founder of Iran Front for the Revival of Law and National Sovereignty. The front has been created a year ago, launched in European Parliament and in the House of Lords in UK. So that organization has been founded through the demand of the leaders of different diversities within Iran, ethnic, religious, and political diversity after the day of 66 of my hunger strike, which we managed to become as the only figure in the opposition to be able to unite the whole different groups in opposition on 29th of April 2023.
Because it's such a vast country with many divisions, so you have united that in your...
Then I have some input, because the previous guest stated something, it was really good, how he described it, but one mistake, because I at least spend 6-7 hours of my time every day on Zoom call, on different calls with different leaders in Iran, diversity, because we are very diverse, as you know.
Yes, of course.
But all these diversities, they know themselves first Iranian, then Baluchis, Iranian, then Kurds, Iranian, then Ahwazis, Arab from Ahwaz, Iranian, then Azeris. But the previous guest made one mistake which separate them from each other. This is the narrative of regime. From 47 years ago, he said, if you're not there, the Iran is going to fall apart. The Azeris, they're going to separate themselves, Baluchis. The leader of Baluchis, Molavi Abdul Hamid, the leader of 20 million Sunnis and Baluchis, he stated, we are against any separatism. They only asking for their rights. And we have it on the point 10 of our 17-point manifesto, the right to self-governance. So the only three things should be under the control of the central government. The rest of the things should be managed by local government. This is not separatism. This is what we are moving toward. But now, as we speak, there is a group created in Iran from different diversities, and are talking to each other, and they are in contact with, I think, as I understand, Trump administration. I love that point of view of Yair Lapid. As you know, I am the only figure from the Iranian opposition who spoke in the Knesset 2.5 years ago. I addressed the ministers in the Knesset, and in that day, when all the focus only was on Hamas, I stated, when all the media attacked me after that, I said we should not be afraid of attacking the house of Ali Khamenei, the IRGC bases and their nuclear sites, because this is the big elephant in the room and we have to see it. This is the source of all this terrorism. So yes, we are not asking, and as Iranians from foreign countries, to come and change the regime for us and put someone or some group there. No, we are doing this. We are telling, look, this is a joint action. We need to do it together. There's a common enemy, the common ideology. This is the ideology that destroying all of us. Give us the help that we need, because we cannot do it with bare hand, as you describe it very well. And then we're going to overthrow the regime and establish new secular democratic system based on grounded in law and human rights.
Vahid, just one quick point on this. We have some breaking news to bring. I just want to ask you this quick thing. We've seen overnight people mourning the murder of the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
There seem to be quite a lot of them. Where do those people come into this?
You have to see, they are very good. They are expert in engineering this footage and give it to you. But don't forget, we have 2% of Iranians are pro-regime. Their salary come from the regime, and if they don't participate in those ceremonies, they're gonna be punished by the regime. So they have been asked yesterday to come to and then they are engineering those images to show it to exactly. That's part. They are expert in propaganda. They have their people in academia, in politics, and in everywhere to extend the hands of the propaganda machine.
Okay, Vahid, thank you very much for now. We will come back to you soon. Meanwhile, we have some breaking news to bring you in the last few minutes. Former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has been killed in an airstrike, and that's according to Iranian media reports. The Iranian Revolutionary Guards have said they targeted U.S. aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, in 4 ballistic missiles. And you can see on your screens now a graphic of the US's Abraham Lincoln being moved to the Mediterranean in the last couple of weeks. Okay, that's the breaking news for you there, just to refresh that according to reports, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has been killed in an airstrike. That's according to Iranian media reports. Okay, now let's talk to our next guest. This is IDF's spokesperson, Nadav Shashani. Nadav, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can I just get your reaction to events of the last 24 hours, please?
Well, these are historic days. IDF, alongside the U.S. Armed Forces, have carried out an operation against this Iranian terror regime. This is a regime that has been destabilizing the region and the world for the last 45 years. A regime that has vowed daily death to Israel, death to England, death to the USA, death to the West. And they have been acting upon it, and in the last 24 hours, we acted back. And we've had great and historic achievements. The biggest of them is removing Ali Khamenei, who's the main driving force, maybe the world's largest terrorist, main driving force behind all of this terror activity pointed towards the West.
Now, would you describe the attack on Iran by Israel and America as a success so far? Israel has been bombarded, you have lost lives, but this is, so far, it's an ongoing mission, as we understand, but so far you are happy with the results?
Well, first of all, we understand the price of war. And there's a heavy price of war, as we're just looking at the incident in Bechemish, where this terrorist regime has been targeting Israeli civilians, as a strategy on purpose. And the price is large, but we also know what the price of inaction means. And looking at our actions, we see great success on a historic level. We're talking about eliminating 40 of the most important people in the Iranian war regime within 1 minute. This is a strike almost 2,000 kilometers away from Israel. And within 1 minute, we were able to eliminate 40 of the most important people in the Iranian war regime, people who were hiding from us, who knew they were a target. We were able to eliminate all of them within 1 minute.
And where do you go now? What happens going forward?
Well, as you spoke in your previous interview, the Iranian regime is a regime that has been promoting terror for many years in a large country, in a large regime, tenfold the size of Israel. And there's still a lot of military assets, a lot of weapons they possess. We saw the catastrophic damage of one attack in Bechemish. We're seeing it right now on the screen. That's one ballistic missile. They still have hundreds of those ballistic missiles. Some of them reach Europe even. So this is a threat we need to keep pushing. Even though we were able to eliminate their leadership, we still need to make sure those missiles are not pointed towards Israel, towards American assets, towards the West, that we are able to remove those threats and make sure that this lunatic regime, this murderous regime, bloodthirsty regime that is targeting civilians does not have the means to do that anymore.
I mean, Nadav, I have to say, it's been a bloodthirsty terrorist regime that has been butchering its own citizens for many years. Why now?
Well, we've learned a very expensive lesson on October 7th. We've learned that if an enemy says they want to kill us and is acting and promoting all the steps to do it, we need to act against them. But more importantly, we've seen recently very, very concerning steps. They have rehabilitated their stockpile of missiles. They were pushing, concealing, and pushing deeper underground their nuclear system to promote it again. Just in the last year, they spent almost $1 billion for proxies in the Middle East. So they were moving forward in a dangerous pace. The Iranian regime was planning, and not just planning, operating to annihilate the state of Israel, and we had to act first.
And what did you say, Nadav, to those that say the actions of Israel and America are illegal?
Well, I think those people need to take a lesson in the rules of engagements in international law. Israel is acting against legitimate military targets who are possessing weapons to kill Israelis and Americans, who have the blood of thousands of innocent people, including of their own people, on their hands. And Israel conducted, this is an accurate strike on historic measures, almost 2,000 kilometers away from Israel, pinpointing, finding those terrorists with blood on their hands, those terrorists who are planning to carry out attacks against us, is part of a war machine. And it's important to say, this war didn't begin today. The Iranian regime has been fighting against us, publicly and not publicly, for years. We're responding now. This is what this is.
Now, obviously, Nadav, this isn't just for Israel. This is for a global safety, would you say? I mean, we've seen in the United Kingdom, and we've certainly seen in Australia and many other countries around the world, how far the tentacles of radical Islamism triggered by Iran have spread. How much safer do you think the world will be with this regime taken down?
Well, first of all, there's more work to be done. We need to deepen our achievements against this terrorist regime. But this, we've just seen in the last 24 hours how dangerous this terror regime. They're firing all across the Middle East. They're firing against multiple countries, I believe more than 10 countries. This is a threat for global stability, this regime, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that we are diminishing their capabilities as much as we can. And we don't take lightly the price of war. We see the price of it right now, but we also understand that this is a regime that if we don't act against it now, would act against us on a different time in a much larger scale.
And what would you say to the reaction from various governments around the world, but in particular the UK government, which hasn't exactly condoned what Israel has done? It hasn't condemned it, but it hasn't condoned it.
Well, I can speak at the military level. We have great coordination with a lot of militaries. The British Army is one of them. But it's important for us to differentiate between right and wrong. It's important for us to have a clear conscience of this Iranian regime, a murderous regime that is calling death to Israel, death to America, death to England. This is something they're saying, and it's okay for us to say this is something we will not accept. This is something we will act against, because these Iranian terrorists, they understand only one thing, and they understand power. They don't understand words. They don't understand the diplomacy. They understand power. They were promoting a process of diplomacy while secretly pushing forward this plan to destroy Israel and other countries, Western countries. This is the regime we're facing, and it's important to be honest with ourselves of who we're facing.
And how far are Israel willing to go with helping the new Iran rebuild itself? I mean, are you willing to put boots on the ground? I keep using that phrase, but I can't think of a better way to say it. Airstrikes very rarely change regimes. It often takes people on the ground helping rebuild. How far do you think Israel would be willing to go in that?
Well, first of all, I'm a military spokesperson. I speak about the military threats and the perceived threats.
But that would involve the military, wouldn't it?
How we need to act against those threats, and not so much about a regime change. But I can tell you one thing, and I can tell this also on a personal level. I'm from Iranian descent. My family ran away from Iran, and the people of Israel are not in a war with the people of Iran. The Israeli government is not in a war with the people of Iran. We are fighting this regime that is vowed to kill us. We're protecting ourselves. That's what it is. We are not, and we've said this all the way from the bottom to the top to our prime minister, we are not at war with the people of Iran.
Nadav, that's interesting. Do you still have family in Iran?
No, I don't have family in Iran anymore. They moved, it was many years ago.
Okay, thank you very much for your time today. Very good to talk to you. That's IDF spokesperson Nadav Shishani. Thank you very much. And obviously, please do let me know what you're thinking on this Sunday lunchtime, gbnews.com/your site. I appreciate I haven't read as many comments out as I usually do, but obviously there's lots of live breaking lines coming into the studio. So let's get another take on the story now. Joining me now is Daily Mail special correspondent and author of Nuclear Iran, The Birth of an Atomic State, David Patriarcharas. David, thank you very much for joining us today. Your reaction to what's happened over the last 24 hours?
Well, Dawn, it's extraordinary. The Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is finally dead. It is a huge symbolic action. I think we need to understand what it means and what it does not mean. What it means is that one of the longest serving and most brutal dictators in global politics is at an end, which is good. It does not mean, however, that the Iranian regime is at an end. What we are seeing now with the death of Khamenei, we must understand, is the beginning of a process. If the Israelis and the Americans are to have the success that they are talking about, what needs to come now is a further decapitation, degrading of the regime's military capabilities, its capabilities of oppression and butchery. And then the big question, what is going to replace it? Dawn, you and I have talked about this before. It is not enough that the Ayatollahs fall. What will replace them? And that is the big question now.
And how difficult do you think it will be for the people of Iran who aren't armed? I mean, the remains of the regime are, as we're clearly seeing, quite heavily armed. We're still seeing missiles and drones flying into surrounding states and countries. How easy is it going to be for people that are unarmed, just fighting with their fists, to establish and overthrow the remnants of that regime?
Well, this is the big question. The answer is it's going to be very difficult. I've said constantly that the opposition, the democratic, or let's say not democratic, let's just say the people opposition, the popular opposition, these are young people, old people, men, women, students, people in work. They are unarmed, and they are, I think, the hope for Iran. They are where you see a sane Iran, a pro-Western Iran emerging. What is most likely now is that some form of change, if it comes, will come from within the regime. Now, if you look at what Donald Trump is doing and what he's saying, he's offered them a deal. He's saying, come to us, you'll get immunity. It's almost like the Venezuela playbook. If you remember, Marco Rubio was reaching out to Venezuela's vice president to make a deal with her. So when they took Maduro, there was a smooth succession. But Iran is a different case, not least because if senior Revolutionary Guard figures are going to make a deal, what's going to happen? Are they going to be slotted in to replace the Ayatollah? These are people who have oppressed their people, have oppressed Iranians, have oppressed those Iranians on the street for decades. It's a very, very different scenario. And I think what worries me is that Trump thinks he could just make a deal and reproduce the Venezuela playbook here. I'm not so sure.
And David, bringing it back home to the UK, what do you make of our government's reaction?
I mean, look, this is typical Keir Starmer. It's just hapless, okay? On the one hand, he didn't condemn the strikes, but at the same time, he distanced himself from them. So all that happened is he annoyed everybody who's rabidly against the strike, so the left of his party, and annoyed everybody who believes that they're the correct thing. It's just typical. He managed to alienate everyone, and he just starts. He starts with, this had nothing to do with us. Cowardice, timidity, indecisiveness. It's just Keir Starmer all over, and the sooner this man is gone, the better for everyone.
Strong words, David, as always, which is why we love talking to you. David, how much of a threat was this regime to the UK? We know that we have had, obviously, Islamist terror attacks in the UK for many decades now. How much of a threat was it to people in the UK?
Dawn, it was a clear and present threat. And this is something the Israelis say, and they're right. This idea that the Americans and Israelis struck them unprovoked is nonsense. Look, they have been attacking Israel on many fronts for decades. And look, in Britain, we have a serious problem with the extremist Iranian government institutions. I wrote a big investigation when I went around parts of central London. I called it Little Tehran. There's a picture of me, actually, Dawn, standing in front of one of the institutions. Unfortunately, I think I look a bit like a radical preacher inside it. But the fact remains is these buildings are all over London. And these buildings, Dawn, got money during COVID. Our government gave them furlough money. Please understand that Iranian agents have tried to kill dissident journalists on the streets of London. IRGC affiliated organizations are penetrating student politics. We've seen videos in the IRGC school of kids being, taught to sing songs praising the Ayatollahs and celebrating martyrdom. If people are tempted to believe that this is a faraway conflict in a land of which we know nothing, they should disabuse themselves of this disillusion. The Iranian threat is clear, it is present, and it is over here in Britain.
Which brings me to one person we did see at the protests in London yesterday supporting the regime and anti-Israel and America taking the action they did. And that is the deputy leader of the Green Party, Mohsin Ali. As we know, David, they've just done incredibly well in the by-election in Manchester. He was actually at this protest. Why is a British politician at a rally supporting a regime that openly declares death to the UK?
I mean, it's absolutely astonishing, but unfortunately, it's equally and depressingly unsurprising. The Green Party is becoming a haven for extremists, for Islamists, and for cranks. So it really was unsurprising to see him there. But we need to understand this. People need to understand what we're dealing with the Green Party. I believe elements of the Green Party pose a clear and present danger to the national security of Britain. And you said it yourself. Why is a now mainstream politician celebrating, or at least trying to sort of prop up a regime at this time that openly avows death to the UK and that, I repeat, has again sponsored terror on our own shores? It's unacceptable and it must be stamped out.
David, the Green Party would say they're a party led by a gay Jewish man. I mean, how can they be supporting Islamists?
Well, they very much are. I mean, this is a kind of disingenuous argument. They are. Let's see how long that holds. By the way, if we're talking about Iran, I think people in the Green Party should take a look at what happened to the Iranian leftists during the 1970s who allied themselves with the Ayatollah Khomeini. It didn't end well for them, and it won't end well for the supposed progressives in the Green Party today.
David, always strong words. Thank you very much. That's David Patriarchos there. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, some more breaking news for you in the last few minutes. Sorry, we will get back to that. We are. Sorry, there's so many breaking lines coming into the studio this afternoon. Former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has been killed in an airstrike, and that's according to Iranian media reports. And other breaking news, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards have said they have targeted US aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln, with 4 ballistic missiles. We will actually bring you more on that as and when we have it, and we will be joined soon by Will Godley, who is on the streets at a protest, Iranians celebrating that the regime has been overthrown. Let's go back to Vahid Beheshti, who's in the studio with me now. Vahid, you've listened to lots of opinions. You've been there, you've lived this, you've lost relatives. What is it like now for the people on the streets of Iran? I mean, we've heard stories that they're stockpiling food, that they're uncertain, but we've also seen them celebrating.
They were waiting for this for years. They are willing to go through whatever to get rid of this regime. Look, in the previous conversation that we had, I described the ideology of the regime. So the regime has got nothing to do with Iran. It's got an ideology that expands them to expand the ideology not to the region, to Europe, to America, and wherever they can. They believe, this is what they said. Prophet Muhammad wasn't successful in his mission. We are carrying a successful mission and better than him. And we cannot let go of this government. And as the previous guest described it very well, they have nowhere to go. These are is not. I don't think the situation and the scenario of Venezuela will occur here because these are the people of, when I'm talking about the IRGC members, besieged members, they are the murderers of this nation. How can they deal with people? So of course, okay, if they bow down to President Trump, what they're gonna do to their own people? So these people are waiting for the moment. For example, this is one example. When they send the picture of my cousin Arash Beheshti 8 weeks ago, it was 1:30 in the morning, and they said Arash is dead. I was trying to call the other person who sent the family member who sent the picture to me to just talk to her, to just give her some strength and all. I said, I was surprised when I called her. I called her and I said, okay, listen, this is a war. I said, what are you talking about? She said to me back, what are you talking about? We are preparing ourselves for the strike of America. We're not going to go back then. We have nothing to lose. So yeah, of course they're celebrating. They are preparing themselves. And I said, there's a good spirit in Iran now. At least America, we have the right people in White House. We have the right people in Israel who understand the ideology of this regime. And unlike our government, they don't think this is not the problem. This is the problem because this is the ideology which acting against humanism, against human being, against Western civilization. How can you be immune from this ideology? Because it doesn't matter if you don't do anything about them, they're not going to be neutralized against you. They're going to come forward. They're going to come forward. The only way, as the IDF spokesman described it very well, the only way to deal with this regime is to destroy them.
What do you think the regime that hasn't been killed, and many of the top commanders in it do seem to have been killed now, what do you think should happen to those that are captured, that maybe hand themselves over? Should they face some sort of criminal trial?
Yeah, they have to, of course, they have to. We shouldn't, we have to put an end to this death execution from our point of view, but it all depends to our Constitution Assembly with the first draft of our Constitution, which we will have. So, but I think we should put an end to this death execution and follow the human rights charters, international human rights charters. They have to they have to face the international courts, and then we see how they're going to deal with it.
Wahid, thank you very much for now. We'll be coming back to you. Okay, some more breaking news coming into the newsroom for you. The US military says it has sunk an Iranian ship and it's currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. That's breaking news coming into the newsroom. US military say has sunk an Iranian ship and it's currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. It's that breaking news all the time coming in, so do keep with me, gbnews.com/your-say. Joining me now is the Deputy Director of General at Israel's Claret Health Services, the biggest health provider in Israel, which runs 14 hospitals. That's Professor Ran Balaser. Ran, thank you very much for joining us. Just reaction to what's going on in Israel at the moment. We know the bombardment continues. We've spoken to many people that have been literally in their bomb shelters now for 24 hours. Can you bring us up to date on what's happening, please?
So these are very challenging times for us here in Israel. Missile attacks took the lives of over 10 civilians and many dozens more are injured. Now, in these settings, we, as the largest healthcare system in Israel, we have a huge responsibility. Khalid basically serves as the medical shield of 5 million Israelis, providing them with primary care up to the hospital care and ICU. And we have a daily task to ensure that even under fire, more than half of Israel's population can have a doctor on their side. And these are for needs that related and unrelated to the conflict. So that is not easy when missiles are falling and it's very difficult to commute. But still, you know, while the missiles are flying in the operating room, there's no conflict here. You will see Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, all working together as one family to save lives. So this is the modus operandi of the Israeli healthcare system, and this makes us very proud and hopeful, even in these very difficult days.
And what sort of injuries are you seeing coming into the hospitals?
There's everything from the very severe direct hits by recent missiles up to mild injuries caused by running to take shelter, and ending with mental health issues that are quite prevalent. The whole issue of mental health is sometimes underscored, but you have to understand that Israel has been under attack continuously now for since October 2023, and the relative impact mentally of these continuous issues and basically the massacre of October 2023 has created a huge mental health burden. In one of our recent surveys that we've done, 1 in 5 adult Israelis suffers from severe dysfunction associated with mental health issues. So this is the impact that this continuous attacks have on the mental health of the population, and it is also part of our responsibility to respond to it, and we do it in very different ways, both reactive and proactive.
And Professor, how optimistic are you now that going forward, now the regime does seem to have had at least the head of it cut off, that there will be a bit more peace coming to Israel?
I try to speak within my domain of expertise. This by far is not, but at the bottom of the Pandora box lies the hope, and there's always hope for a better future. I think that the actions that have been taken by Israel and the United States in the last day and a half has been of tremendous hope for the entire region. I think that in many senses, Iran was the source of all evil. That really was inflicting so much damage both to us but to all of their neighboring countries, and I do hope that we're going to see a different future looking forward. But in terms of what we need to do as a health system, we need to provide care to the population. We have been trying to fortify our hospitals to withstand missile attacks. One of our hospitals has been hit in the previous conflict with Iran, and lives were saved almost by miracle, as some of those places were evacuated just before that. So now we came to this event, to this conflict, with creating hospitals underground. I'm speaking with you now from the 4th floor below one of Israel's main hospitals, Rabin Medical Center of Talit, and on this -4th floor, where there used to be a parking lot, we've created a fully functional hospital with respirators and ICUs and dialysis centers, and all of the patients that have been just yesterday up in the ground in the hospital wards have now been put down with a matter of a day, and now everybody is safe in here. And those that were not as complex, and that we could put them back into their homes where they have safe places to stay at home, we actually created a hospital at home for all of these patients. Right now we have hundreds of patients at home getting top-notch care that includes respirators and oxygen brought to them, and staff coming over. So these kinds of advanced innovation in provision of care has been really helpful for us in these tough times. You can add to that all of the aspect of digital health and virtual care. We have 24/7 provision of primary care, of pediatrics, of mental health services, all through virtual care, with virtual questionnaires and digital therapeutics and self-help tools and bots. And all of these help us do surge capacity in an event that is of immense proportions, and nobody knows how long it is going to last. So we need to be prepared for every contingency, and I think we are.
That's quite incredible when you consider the problems we have with the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, that you have done all that so much. And how is morale amongst the staff, the fact that they are now working underground, but you've achieved it so fast?
So, one of the key things in preparing for emergencies is drilling and preparing. So this has, what's happening right now has been drilled over and over again and again in the last few months. That helps a lot with helping staff to contain this. And I have to tell you, this is not easy in any sense, not in the mental and not in the physical. It's very crowded. There's infection control aspects you have to control for when it's so condensed. And also, it's non-trivial for staff to be below ground for so long, taking care of people around the clock, and the noise. You have to see it to believe it. But I think our staff has one purpose in mind, and that is saving lives. That's why they came to do what they're doing, and they're doing an amazing work out there right now, saving lives day in and day out. And I know for sure that we'll be able to provide the best care in these problematic settings for as long as it will take.
Thank you very much. That's Professor Ran Barlater. Thank you very much for joining us there. Quite astonishing what they have done in Israel. I mean, obviously, when you think about the problems we have with NHS here, and they've literally just upended a hospital and built it underground. It's just quite incredible. Okay, joining us now is Middle East analyst and lecturer at the College of International Security Affairs, Michael Present. Michael, thank you very much for joining us today. Firstly, your take on the last 24 hours.
Well, thank you for having me. The last 24 hours it's historical, but it needs to continue. We saw the 12-day airstrike campaign that Israel conducted over Tehran, where they owned the daytime skies. That was significant. That was a 12-day operation where the majority of their top leadership was killed back in June. That leadership was replaced, and in the last 24 hours, it was killed again. But it needs to be sustained. There are so many tiers of qualified people to take over these institutions that could restore the regime, that the air campaign needs to take place, and we need to start working with people on the ground to identify other targets, and then start thinking about different groups that we can that we trust to be able to carry out a regime change on their own, a regime change from the Iranian people.
How is obviously the big question of the last 24 hours is how easy is it going to be? The regime has been beheaded, but the ordinary Iranian people, they're not armed, they're not organized. How difficult is it going to be?
I'm a veteran of the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, and a lot of people are saying we don't want another Iraq or Afghanistan, and I don't want that either. We don't want to do this with U.S. military. We want to be able to provide intelligence to a trusted group on the ground that can go after, senior leadership, that can go after the leadership of the Basij, the civilian clothes wearing terrorists that basically, make people disappear in Tehran. How easy is it going to be? It's going to be very hard, but it's a nice problem to have. The regime is going to ground. Israel is flying daytime, low-flying operations over Tehran. That is a huge symbolic message to the people on the ground. The resistance is getting ready to start taking more territory, start taking more institutions, but they're worried about a tweet from the President of the United States saying, okay, that's it. Pay attention, stop. And if that happens, this is all for nothing.
And that can't afford to happen, can it? Thank you, Michael, very much. That's a lecturer at College of International Security Affairs, Michael Present there. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, now I think we can go live to Will Godley, who is at a Free Iran rally in central London for us. Will.
Dawn, good afternoon to you. It's an incredibly loud rally. In fact, thousands of people gathering behind where we are. And now flags are flying, Iranian flags, American flags and Israeli flags. People have been dancing, singing to music and celebrating. We've come a little bit further back, so you might have a chance of hearing what we're going to say. I can speak now to Nihat Gabani, the organizer. Is this a rally? Is this a protest? You told me it's a celebration with a big smile on your face. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling really well. I actually get phone call yesterday from my sister. After 4 years, I didn't have a connection with my family since I'm coming to UK. But yesterday, my sister called me and said, listen, US finally hit IRGC and Islamic Republic. Just be safe. She tell me be safe in UK, but she doesn't think about herself in Iran, which is, make me really upset about them. The Iranian people right now in Iran, they are super happy because since 1979, really, we try really hard to change regime, but doesn't happen. Right now, we get help from the US and Israel. That's why we are happy and we are excited. And we are waiting for Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi to announce to actually Iranian people go to the street and take over all the, the government buildings. But in same time, we are celebrating today here. But this is the beginning of our actually fight. The UK government, when they don't stand with us, when they don't supporting Iranian people, we don't want to, second Iraq. If you have a leader, we have a leader right now, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. If you're supporting him, you can actually have your safe things also as a actually UK government. If you have a good friendship relationship with Iran in future, you have to show your support right now, because the Iranian will not forget if you stand with us right now.
Amazing. Well, Niak, thank you for talking to us on GB News. I can see your smile. I'll let you get back to celebrating as your message from outside Downing Street, hopefully, you hope will be heard by the Prime Minister here today, as they're calling, not only celebrating, but calling for closer relationships from the UK to the people of Iran.
Can I add something?
Very quickly, in 10 seconds.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, I think we've lost Will there. Okay, Will will be back throughout the afternoon at that rally. I still have Vahid in the studio with me. The most interesting thing from what that interview was, he phoned his sister in Iran and he was concerned about her safety, and she said to him, be safe in the UK.
Because of the level of the infiltration of the regime's agent in here, and this is well known in Iran, how UK become the second home of Ayatollahs. That's the problem.
How safe do you feel here?
No, none. Every night that I sleep, I think tomorrow's, if I'm gonna have tomorrow, it's gonna be bonus. So that's how we feel, because if we know the agents of the regimes are freely acting here, and we are not prescribing IRGC.
No, we're not. But I just want to interrupt you there briefly. We've just got some more breaking news coming in for you. America says 3 US service members have been killed in action as part of Iran operation. Sent.com. Yeah, that just to confirm, that is 3 US service members have been killed in action as part of the Iran action. That's obviously sad news. Vahid, let's come back to you very quickly. Final word, we are running out of time, unfortunately. You don't feel safe in the UK. What is your future? Are you going to go back to Iran? You have family in Iran now. If the regime settles down, is that what you plan to do?
So, of course, we have to, for rebuilding the country, we have to, as I said, all the diverse group. We are planning to get back. There is a big communication now going on between these different diversities, and I think they are coming together, all these different diversities, to negotiate not around an individual, not around another ideology, not around vague promises, but through concrete guarantees that all diversities play a decisive role from the day one. So that's what we are doing. That's where we are agreed with different groups. I think there is a great there's a great hope for Iran, and this is what I'm going to finish with this. This is what I have said in Israeli parliament 2.5 years ago in Knesset. I have said, just close your eyes in end of my speech and imagine what we can build. The Iranian nation, great Iranian nation, great Israelis nation, and the whole region together without this evil regime and without Ali Khamenei. Now Ali Khamenei eliminated, many of the top commanders and the top officials of the regime eliminated. We got a long way to go, but we are filled with hope and motivation, and we will do that.
Vahid, thank you so much. Vahid Beheshti, thank you very much for joining me today. Just to reiterate that breaking news for you, sadly, 3 US service members have been killed in action as part of the operation in Iran. We will have all the breaking news for you, much more to come on GB News. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon. I've been Dawn Neeson, but don't go anywhere. There will be much more coming up. I think Nana Akweer is coming up next, and she will have Charlie Peters with her with all your breaking news. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon, and stay safe. That's all I can say. See you soon.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benivan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jake Beesmore, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the cars.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situations.
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
If you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Well, I've done a few things on the streets in the past. I went out on the streets in COVID, taking a hymn and a prayer, trying to lift spirits when we were all confined to our homes. But I've also seen other priests from different traditions do it in their robes and getting out and being public. And I just think it's so important for the church today to be seen, to be heard. We've got a voice, we've got good news. So I decided to give it a go last year. I'd done it the year before actually, but I decided to give it a go last minute again last year, and a colleague of mine or two came to help, and they decided to film a bit of it and just put this thing out on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and it had an amazing response. Millions of people watched it, which took me by surprise. The ashes are mixed with oil and then put on people's foreheads, and I heard a beautiful description of what that represents from a Catholic priest, Father Mike Schmitz, who's...
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
Iran has announced a 40-day period of mourning, whilst its neighbour Iraq will mourn for 3 days. Now, Iranian State TV has also confirmed the death of Iran's Army Chief of Staff. If you just joined me, hello. It has just gone 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, the Israel Defense Forces have continued to carry out strikes on military and other sites across Iran, including a significant blast in Iran's capital city, Tehran. However, the Iranians have hit back and launched a missile strike on an Israeli neighborhood where at least 8 people have been killed. Meanwhile, after no direct involvement in the Israel-US strikes on Iran, there are question marks over the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's response to the conflict, as he is yet to fully support or condemn the attacks. Right, throughout the show, we'll be bringing you all of the very latest from Iran. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsie.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories at 3 minutes past 3. Iran and Israel have exchanged fresh attacks after Tehran confirmed its supreme leader and its former president have both been killed. Israel says it has continued to target Iran's ballistic missile and air defense systems, with columns of smoke seen rising over the capital. Since the military attacks began yesterday morning, Israel's defense force says it's dropped over 1,200 munitions over Iran. And in the last few minutes, it's been confirmed that 3 US service members have been killed in the action and 5 others seriously wounded. Well, Iran has vowed the most intense retaliation and has launched further attacks across the Middle East. At least 9 people have been killed by an Iranian missile in the Israeli city of Beit Shemesh, with dozens more wounded. Iran has also targeted Gulf countries, including Qatar, Bahrain, the UAE, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. And in other news, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has set out proposals to amend the voting system. It's after his party came second in the recent by-election in Gorton and Denton. He says Reform would remove voting rights from Commonwealth citizens and place significant restrictions on postal voting, so only elderly, disabled, serving armed forces personnel and those working overseas during an election could take part. The Sunday Times is reporting the Prince of Wales wanted Andrew Mountbatten Windsor removed from the royal line of succession last year. The government is considering the move following his arrest on suspicion of misconduct in a public office during his decade-long role as UK's trade envoy. Government sources say removing the King's brother as 8th in line to the throne could take years, and the paper understands Prince William is frustrated by the delay. Olivia Dean was the big winner at the Brit Awards, claiming all 4 categories she was nominated in last night. Dean won Best British Artist, Best Album for The Art of Loving, as well as Song of the Year for her current #1 collaboration with Sam Fender. That's called Rein Me In. The ceremony was hosted in Manchester. It's the first time it was held outside of London in its 50-year history. And the Prince and Princess of Wales has shared a message in Welsh to celebrate St David's Day. Kate and the Prince of Wales, who visited the country earlier this week, said Wales is very close to their hearts and they look forward to every visit.
I bawb yng Nghymru, dydd gwyl dawi hapus iawn.
Mae Cymru yn agos iawn at ein colonnau, ac rydyn yn edrych ymlaen at bob ymweliad.
Mae'n wlad hyfryd gyda hanes cyfoethog a phobl wych.
Dymunod ffilnod, llawn o ddathlu, gyda theulu a ffrindiau.
You're up to date for now. Let's get back to Nana.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player, and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Breaking news, welcome on board to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Aquia. It is Sunday the 1st of March. Now, breaking news in the last few moments, it has been confirmed that 3 US service members have been killed and 5 seriously wounded in action as part of operations in Iran. Now, this comes as Iran's Revolutionary Guards say that they attacked the American aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln in the Gulf after US and Israeli strikes killed the country's supreme leader. Now, the United States military says that it has sunk an Iranian vessel in the Gulf of Oman. And in a statement, officials say that the ship is currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. Earlier this afternoon, Israel confirmed the death of 9 of its citizens following an Iranian ballistic missile strike on the town of Bet Shemesh. And in the meantime, President Donald Trump has this morning threatened to hit Iran with what he calls unprecedented force. His warning comes after Tehran vowed to escalate retaliation for the killing of the Ayatollah Khomeini. Now, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, have continued to carry out strikes on military sites across Iran. That includes a massive blast in Tehran, and the army announced that it had dropped over 1,200 pieces of munitions in just over 24 hours. Iranian officials are scrambling to reassert control. Ahmed Vahidi, pictured on the left, has been named the new commander-in-chief of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Ayatollah Arafi has been appointed temporary supreme leader. And earlier this afternoon, Downing Street confirmed that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, held a call with the King of Bahrain, the Crown Prince of Kuwait, and the King of Jordan this morning. He reiterated that the UK has had planes in the sky since yesterday as part of the coordinated defence response. Now, elsewhere, one British expat has been wounded in Oman after the Duqm port was targeted by Iranian drones. And last night, scenes of jubilation filled the streets of Tehran after an end to the reign of the man who has ruled Iran with an iron fist for decades. Iran has unleashed a wave of missile and drone attacks across the region, striking American allies and US military targets in Dubai, Doha, Manama, and also Kuwait City. And these were the scenes in Dubai last night, where one person has been confirmed killed and 11 injured following attacks on airports in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Well, joining me now is GB News' national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie.
Now let's go straight to that latest news you've had from US CENTCOM, which is Central Command. That's the US military's command of West Asia, the Eastern Mediterranean, and much of the Middle East. They've issued a statement that 3 US service members have been killed in action, 5 others seriously wounded as part of the US Operation Epic Fury, this joint US-Israeli strike on Iran. They've gone on to say that several others sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions and are in the process of being returned to duty. They added that major combat operations continue and our response effort is also ongoing. They also said that the situation is fluid, and so out of respect for the families, they will withhold additional information, including the identities of our fallen warriors, until 24 hours after next of kin have been notified. That is a typical tactic and procedure when there has been a loss of life in one of these wartime operations. In the British military is called Operation Minimise. There's a 24-hour silence period to reduce any information being leaked out of the forward operating base or any other place where the British military is deployed. CENTCOM here, the US side, announcing that they are adopting that procedure now for those US service personnel who've been killed. We can't say how they were killed or what area they were in during this operation. We've seen strikes on several US bases throughout the Middle East in retaliation for those strikes early yesterday morning. We can also tell you as well that there has been this indication from the United States. They claim that they have also sank an Iranian ship to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. This also coming out of CENTCOM, saying that it sank the Iranian Navy Jamaran-class corvette during the opening strikes of that operation yesterday. Some satellite imagery from a company called Vantor, which was uploaded online yesterday, appeared to show the heavy black smoke rising from the Iranian Navy's Konarak base following those strikes yesterday morning. And the US CENTCOM now saying that they have sank that Iranian ship. We've also had a report coming out from AFP, the news aggregator there, Saudi Arabia claiming to have intercepted Iranian missiles targeting Riyadh's international airport and the Prince Sultan airbase, an airbase which has hosted coalition Western forces in the past, where Western training is conducted for air defences. This source, speaking to AFP, said that those air defences successfully intercepted Iranian missiles near Riyadh airport and that airbase on Sunday afternoon. So ongoing Iranian retaliation. It's been extraordinary, Nana, to see the number of Arab countries hit, not military areas, but also civilian, residential infrastructure areas. And while there's been much discussion about the legality and the international humanitarian aspect of the American and Israeli strike, similar questions need to be posed, of course, to Iranian strikes on civil defense areas, on infrastructure, on civilian areas, which of course would be a breach of the law of armed conflict, a total failure to distinguish between combatants and civilians, and clearly, obviously, failing the proportionality test of any law of armed conflict. We can also bring you an update of further retaliations from Iranian missile strikes in northern Israel. The sirens have been sounding there, Nana. I think I can also bring you a further update from the IDF. They've now said that they've initiated a fresh wave of strikes in the heart of Tehran. That's been issued to us just at the start of this hour. The Israeli Air Force saying they've initiated a new wave of strikes in Tehran, and some interception attempts are ongoing, but that's the latest update we have from them. We have also, Nana, had a claim from the Iranian military that the carrier strike group, the main aircraft carrier off the coast of Iran, that is the Abraham Lincoln, the Iranians said that they've hit it. We have just had some breaking news here from the US military, from CENTCOM again, now saying that its carrier was not hit by Iran, adding that missiles that were launched towards them didn't even come close. Now that comes after the Iranians had claimed that they had hit the USS Abraham Lincoln, but we've just had that update from CENTCOM, very much disputing that claim. Further to that point I just made about these strikes on northern Israel, we're now hearing from the IDF Home Command that civilians in those areas have not been injured in the latest Iranian missile attack in the north of Israel. The IDF Home Front Command says that civilians in those areas should now leave bomb shelters but remain close to them, but yet no injuries from those latest rounds of Iranian missile strikes. So that is the latest situation as we find it, Nana. An ongoing exchange of missile fire and airstrikes between Israel and Iran. We're now having further confirmation of the naval battle here as well. Claims from Iran rejected by the US that its main carrier hasn't been hit. They're saying that is not the case. They didn't even come close. And we've also had that corvette, image of the Jamaran-class corvette being sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman at the Char-Bahar Pier. That's from US Central Command. So very much still an ongoing, very kinetic battle space, Nana.
All right, Charlie. Right, let's get the former Deputy Speaker of the Israeli Knesset, Moshe Reglin, on very shortly. But I'm just wondering, with all of this going on, how unstable this makes the Middle East.
Tremendously unstable. I mean, I think what's been remarkable to that point, Nana, is how quickly so many Arab nations who have previously been very distant from one another have locked arms, shared resources to resist this Iranian strike. There was much commentary yesterday about how October the 7th might have been a tremendous tactical success for Hamas and the wider Iran-backed world, it was an awful strategic failure from their perspective, because it has now led to this scenario where the Ayatollah is dead and the Arab world has come together to resist Iranian strikes. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who have had a very tested and frosty relationship in recent months and years, there was a phone call between their two leaders yesterday after Dubai and Abu Dhabi were hit by missiles. So, and that's to be expected, I suppose, Nana, based on the Iranian missiles being fired towards those Emirati, those Saudi, Omani, Bahraini areas. All these Arab nations coming together now, unified by one thing, which certainly would create a sense of brotherhood, and that is coming under rocket fire from Iran. So very much a closer link. On that point as well, Nana, about the presence of the importance of the Saudi involvement here. We're just hearing now that the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, she has spoken to the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and that they're going to work closely to de-escalate and safeguard regional stability, very much to the concern you raised. We've also heard from the German Chancellor Merz. He said that the Iranian nuclear program threatens stability and peace in the region. Went on also to say that he will be discussing the situation in the Middle East with President Trump on Tuesday when he comes to Washington. And wasn't it stark, the difference in the statements between the Prime Minister of Australia, Albanese, what we've heard from Merz of Germany, who were quite forthright in supporting the American action, contrasting quite significantly from the British perspective, which is to well, first and foremost, not provide immediate support to the US strike. The British air bases not being used from that, forcing B-2 bombers, which we've only learned in the last hour were used in this strike, to fly from the continental United States for that very long, thousands of miles long journey, repeating what they did last June during that 12-day war, where B-2 bombers, those stealth bombers, the most sophisticated bombers in the world, struck those nuclear facilities. They were reused again, and that's according to Fox News distributing that information. So the US very much still fighting here. There have been more strikes on Israel, some of which we're just showing you on your screens now. There was Beit Shemesh, that area of Israel, 9 people were killed and dozens injured after an Iranian missile hit a building today. So very much still an active war zone at Beit Shemesh. We learned that news an hour ago. That is right in the center of Israel, the most heavily populated part of the country, towards the east of Ashdod. So very much a central part of the country. There can't be a more unstable scenario for the Middle East right now.
All right, well, stay with me, Charlie. I'm joined now by the Labour MP, David Taylor. David, welcome to the programme. Now, look, Keir Starmer has been somewhat, well, he didn't really say much yesterday, which you'd have expected to see much more action from him. Initially, he didn't sound like he was in support of assisting the US. And now, of course, later on yesterday, we learned that he'd sent some planes and they were currently in the sky. How would you rate his response to this?
Well, I support and respect the position that the Prime Minister and the Defence Secretary this morning have set out. It's not true to say that we're not participating and contributing in certain ways. We are there in the region protecting UK personnel and protecting UK bases and protecting our allies against the indiscriminate attacks by the Iranian regime. And we have traditionally played a role of negotiator, being a bridge between the US and this is Europe, really, has been a bridge between the US and the Iranian regime to try and negotiate on this issue of nuclear weapons. I mean, to be clear, I've been public in both the House of Commons and privately I've been lobbying for, since the start of the year, working with Iranian activists to make the case that we, as the West, should be doing more to protect protesters. We've seen 40,000 people people slaughtered. And I do think that there is a justification for targeted airstrikes that degrade the ability of the Iranian regime to kill its own citizens. And I'm glad that the airstrikes have taken place. And obviously, I'm delighted that the Ayatollah has been killed. And I think it's really important to reflect, and more important than what I think, is these fantastic scenes, these videos emerging of Iranians inside the country joyous that he has been killed, and also those of Syrians, because let's not forget that Syrians have also been under the cosh from this dreadful regime. And there were also wonderful scenes from British Iranians last night in North London, all unified in celebration that this tyrant has been killed.
Now, you backed the prescription of Palestine Action. Do you back the prescription for the IRGC as a terror group? Because it doesn't seem that the Keir Starmer and the government want to do that, but they are a terror group. Everybody else has done it.
I think they do want to do it. I think there is a careful process to be followed. I mean, my view and the view of many MPs now is that we need to move forward with that process at pace and do what we can to prescribe them. And not just them. I've also written with other Labour MPs to Dan Jarvis, as Security Minister, about some other charities and groups, or groups masquerading as charities that operate in the UK, that the Shawcross Prevent Review alleged had very strong links to the Iranian regime, and certainly has been behind some of the pro-regime protests that we've seen in the last few months. So even if we're not participating actively in the strikes in the region at the moment, we can and must be doing more in the UK to stop the threat that they pose to us. I mean, another aspect of that is the fact that Ofcom has stopped Press TV, or taken away its license rather, yet they continue to operate in the UK, and that's why we've been calling for financial sanctions in particular to stop the Press TV continuing to operate, and to stop UK-based commentators, often some of whom are vile anti-Semites, from being paid by the Iranian regime. So there are some other things that we can do. I know the government are looking at it, and we just want to see them go further and faster.
And what about, in terms of Iranian influence on networks in the UK, how powerful are they?
Well, I mean, the Prime Minister said yesterday that there have been at least 20 cases in the last year where there's been plots that have been foiled by our intelligence services. So the threat that the Iranian regime poses to the UK is long-standing. But in addition to that, you also have these groups that are perhaps not playing as much of a sort of offensive role in that regard. You know, it's such a direct threat to our security, but nonetheless are causing problems to our democracy. I mean, there was this interesting phenomenon that when the internet blackout came in the start of the year, that a whole swathe of bot accounts that were pushing pro-Scottish independence messages on Twitter went silent. So, you know, like Russia, they have been trying to distort our democracy for some time. And I also want to, I've seen videos from Iranian freedom protesters of them being physically assaulted by some of these groups. And there are police investigations going on, thank God. But why is that being allowed to happen on UK streets? It's time that we got much tougher with these groups, and if any of them are not British citizens, put them on a plane back to Tehran.
Okay, David, I just want to come back to Keir Starmer, because let's be honest, I spoke to the Mayor of Jerusalem yesterday, and they're not impressed with Keir Starmer's response to all of this. He was actually saying that RAF bases, he actually denied the use of RAF bases initially, and then he didn't sound like he was going to allow President Donald Trump to use the Chagos bases. What is going on? Let's be honest here. What's going on? Because it seems literally every decision that he's made, he's had to sort of look at it and backtrack. It doesn't feel like a strong leader, and others around the world are saying that Keir Starmer's leadership appears weak. It's not just me saying it. This is other people who are watching what he's doing.
I understand that criticism. I do respect the position that the Prime Minister has taken. We've got to look after our armed forces and our personnel and keep them safe. And, I respect the call for de-escalation. I mean, as I've said to you, my personal view is that I'd like to see British armed forces taking part in this. The RAF, for example, played a key role in the fight back against Daesh. And we played a sort of moderating force in that. I mean, for example, I was working for Oxfam at the time, and I went and met with MOD officials, and I was very impressed in which the professionalism and skill of our RAF personnel in ensuring that we identified the correct targets and that we minimised any civilian harm. So, I personally do think there is a role for the UK government to be doing more, but I do respect the position the Prime Minister's put forward. There are a lot of unknowns about this. It's a perfectly respectable opinion to be sceptical. I mean, even myself, in supporting the need for regime change in Iran, have questions about how much the Trump administration has thought this through and the steps that need to be taken to really protect civilian lives. And as I say, I want to see a really targeted campaign that now targets every single depot base and every single weapons base that the IRGC have to stop their ability to kill Iranian protesters.
You know what, though? Who would want to work seriously in our own armed forces when we've got our very own Prime Minister who years ago worked with somebody who ended up being convicted for fraud for trying to prosecute military personnel who'd gone off and fought, and then it turned out that they were fake charges, and then, of course, this guy was then, Phil Shiner, was then prosecuted for exactly that. Keir Starmer seems to be somebody who has been involved in trying to use the ECHR to prosecute our armed forces. So whilst it's great that eventually he woke up and decided that we would help out properly in a real tangible way, who would want to work for our armed forces feeling that perhaps their Prime Minister doesn't really support their efforts?
I'm afraid I'm not aware of that case, and I don't support that characterisation. That's not what I've seen with this Labour government. In fairness, we have backed armed forces. We've said we're going to increase defence spending back up to 2.5%. It was 2.5%, or the last time it was under a Labour government. And not only that, we're looking at how we can support our veterans and support our troops. One of the measures that we've taken is to try and address the appalling accommodation that a lot of our troops currently live in. I mean, I've seen some of this myself. I'm on something called the Parliamentary Armed Forces Scheme, and I've been around and visited some of our bases. I'm a strong supporter of our armed forces, and as is the Defence Secretary and as is the Prime Minister. And if you look at what we're doing in Ukraine, we are standing up in support of our allies there and providing a huge amount of support and looking at ways in which the British Armed Forces can help keep peace if there is an eventual settlement. So I do push back on a bit on what you just said there. I think we're doing everything we can to modernise our armed forces and look after the welfare of our troops than perhaps the last government did. Can we do more? Absolutely. Would I like to see defence spending go up further? Of course. But I think we've made a good start in the time we've been in government so far.
And finally, the Chagos Islands. Now, seeing as how useful they appear to be now, are you supporting us effectively giving them away so that we can rent them back? Are you supporting the Chagos Island deal?
I have to be honest, I've not been following that, obviously, from my perspective. I've been focused on advocacy for the Iranian and the Syrian people, and it's them that I've, continued to have in my mind's eye. We have seen an incredible moment on the streets of Syria with videos from people's apartments because they're not able yet to come out in the streets in Iran. That's where my focus is, and I want to see us be doing everything we can to give a voice to the Iranian people so that we can get rid of this horrible regime. There's a long road ahead, but I do believe that there are lots of activists inside Iran that can help change things for the better and turn what has been a pariah state for so long into a vibrant democracy that is contributing to the region and to the world.
All right, well, I won't press you on the Chagos Islands, seeing as you're not fully aware of what was going on there. All right, thank you very much, David Taylor, MP. Really good to talk to you. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Right, well, I'm joined by Will Godley, who is on a protest. He's not actually on the protest, he's at the protest in central London. Will, what can you tell us? What's going on there?
Well, Nana, it's less of a protest and more of a celebration here outside Downing Street. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people gathered, Iranian flags, Israeli flags, American flags flying, chants going at the moment, and also speeches being made on stage. Someone who has just come off stage is Richard Tice, Reform UK's chairman. Richard, why did you want to be here today?
To show our solidarity with the brave people of Iran who are trying to get rid of this terrible, terrible regime. The courage here, but also, in a sense, to to commemorate the courage of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in recent weeks and before. And you compare that courage here to the cowardice, the gutlessness of the Prime Minister, the Defence Secretary, this woeful government, who yesterday distanced themselves from the United States and Israel. They couldn't this morning confirm that they supported the action. I mean, it really is pathetic. We have been humiliated on the international stage by this government, and they will pay a terrible price as voters express their fury at this, because we're standing up. This is a once-in-50-year moment of history to get rid of this terrible regime, and we should actually be standing in solidarity, thanking Israel, thanking the United States and their respective leaders. Instead, we've just got cowardice. This Prime Minister has kowtowed to the Islamist extremists by not giving that support. It's utterly woeful. It's embarrassing.
So what kind of a message do you think these flags, this gathering here outside Downing Street sends to them?
It gives a message of confidence and hope and support to the people of Persia to ensure that they get rid of this terrible regime. They've had that invitation and that opportunity clearly given to them, as expressed by President Trump yesterday morning. Now is the moment to grasp it. But they need to know that they've got our full support, not the cowardice of the Labour government, the hard left. And so that's the defining moment here. This is it's a once-in-50-year moment, and we're all part of it. But we have to stand together. It's interesting, Canada, Australia, they've shown their support for this action. Instead, this Prime Minister, it appears, refused to allow the US to use our bases here and in Diego Garcia. And therefore, you've got a situation where now the American administration, President Trump, will lose confidence in the United Kingdom's leadership and government. When the chips are down, you want to know that your leaders are there, that your friends and allies are there. And now they can't trust the UK.
Well, Richard, thank you very much for joining us from outside Downing Street, where this, as it's been described to me, a celebration is taking place after the Ayatollah was killed yesterday in these strikes.
All right, well, Godley, thank you very much. I'm sure that Keir Starmer would say that he's not supporting Islamist extremists, although it's difficult to work out who or what he's actually supporting. But thank you very much, Will Godley. He's there in a protest in central London. 32 minutes after 3 o'clock still to come. We'll be discussing the latest in the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and also the response from Sir Keir Starmer, who appears to be taking a cautious response to the conflict. This is GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Coastal gales are possible through this evening, particularly in the west. We're also expecting some spells of rain over the next 24 hours or so. But as we head into next week, some brighter spells are certainly going to be possible. For now, though, low pressure very much dominating our weather, pushing in from the west. Quite a few isobars on this chart as well, so it is going to be quite windy at times. Some very brisk winds moving up through into the Irish Sea with a risk of coastal gales here, and a very wet end to the day with further spells of rain pushing across Northern Ireland, moving into Scotland and northwest England. But to the far south of this, it should remain mostly dry. There'll be quite a lot of cloud around, and at times this might be thick enough to produce some drizzle, but with the added breeze, plenty of cloud around, that should hold temperatures up. So largely frost-free, lows reaching around 7 degrees Celsius. Now, as we head into Monday, we can't completely escape the rain, though some of us do. The far northwest of Scotland should start off mostly dry and bright. A few showers just starting to skirt in to the far northwest. Elsewhere, though, there are going to be some spells of rain, a little dry and brighter across Northern Ireland. Outbreaks of rain starting to slowly edge their way into parts of the west. Wales and parts of Devon and Cornwall may just start to see some of this rain. But to the far south of this, it should be mostly a dry start to the week. Plenty of sunshine, actually, across the very far south and southeast, and some milder temperatures, so feeling pleasant in the sunshine as well. A few brighter breaks across northwest Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, though later on we will start to see just some showers edge their way in from the west, and much lighter winds through the course of Monday as well, which will just add on to the pleasant feel to the day, particularly across the far southeast, where highs will reach around 15 degrees Celsius, so quite mild for the time of year. Into the evening, any rain across England and Wales largely fizzling away, though any showers turning to more persistent spells of rain across Northern Ireland and also Scotland. But into next week, we've largely got high pressure dominating, so lots of dry weather, some sunny spells, and some mild temperatures too, so once again feeling more spring-like where we do see the sunshine.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon. A reminder of that breaking news. It has been confirmed that 3 US service persons have been killed and 5 seriously wounded in action as part of the operations in Iran. And all of this as Iran's Revolutionary Guard say that they attacked the American aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln in the Gulf after US and Israeli strikes killed the country's supreme leader. The United States military says that it has sunk an Iranian vessel in the Gulf of Oman. In a statement, officials say that the ship is currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. Well, joining me now is the leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell. Ed, welcome to the programme. Now, earlier I was speaking to David Taylor, MP. He didn't, I appreciate him coming on, and I always like to hear what MPs have to say, in particular with Chagos, which you apparently didn't have the details for, and also the details with regard to Keir Starmer and his sort of ECHR association with veterans who may have potentially done something in war when they haven't actually, So I asked him, he didn't really know much about that as well. Is it disappointing that those who are in power don't appear to be up to scale with what's going on?
Well, I think it always is. I think you'd like to think they're always on top of the detail and that sort of thing. I do have a slight bit of sympathy if it's not as brief or whatever it is, because to some extent you want the people on their brief to be coming on. They should be up to date on all the details and that. I found it interesting that he talked about defence and only talked about, that, yeah, it's great, we're going to go and try and get up to 2.5% of GDP on our defence. We should be ramping up our defence at the moment in every single way. So our army, all of our defence forces are woefully inadequately provisioned, and we should be looking much more like Poland. We should be recognising the issues that are there and ramping up to 5% immediately. How can you protect your values? How can you have the life you want to have and everything else if you don't have the opportunity to defend yourselves? And love or loathe what's happening in Iran at the moment, it shows the strongman type of operations that are happening all around the world. And the only way we become much more difficult to take us on in that sort of way is if we've got a proper defence force. And I really think 2.5% is woeful. We've got to be looking at getting 5% and ramping it up quick.
And what about Keir Starmer's response initially not to use the RAF bases and then not to use the Chagos, Diego Garcia? I mean, what is he doing?
You had on Richard Tice talking earlier, much as I loathe, again, to agree with anything Richard Tice says on a lot of different issues. But in this particular instance, I think Richard had something there which was correct. What he needed to come out, Starmer needs to come out the stocks and say, I'm with the Iranian people. Look, this has happened. You've got a chance. Get out there. We're behind you. And be very, very clear about that. If he says that, that doesn't mean he's endorsing the Americans. What he's endorsing is the hope for the people going forward, and they can go out there and grip their destiny in their hands. And some of these demonstrations, which are also saying that in different parts of the world, where Iranians are out demonstrating, saying this is a great opportunity for us. He could definitely have done that. Now, that would not mean that he was going out and saying straight away that the Americans had a right to do this. He would not be saying that. And I in that bit, I think he's right to be more cautious if he can be strong on doing it for the Iranian people.
Yeah, but he quoted international law because that's what they do when they've got no other excuse to reason why they're not doing something that ultimately is within something that would be a humanitarian thing to do. I just don't get it. Right. So it's okay for a regime to kill 30,000 people in one day. I think it may have even been 40,000 people. But in terms of international law, you can't then go in and try and make some sort of assistance. I mean, I would say that killing 30,000 of your own citizens is a breach of international law for your own citizens.
Yeah, I mean, look, the government did go out and criticise all those problems that were happening in the street. They criticised the killing that was happening in the street. So let's not suggest that they were not criticising it.
No, but I'm not. No. That's not what I said.
Yep.
I said, why is the higher international law not in getting involved in something where a regime have killed 30,000 people of their own in one day? Now, that to me is a massive breach of international law.
It is a massive breach of international law. I mean, Keir Starmer, when you're talking about the letter of the law, Keir Starmer is a lawyer after all. I mean, he's right. So the UN Charter does not support this to happen as it is. When you take a practical look at it and you take it into your own life, so you hear screaming next door from your neighbour and you rush next door because somebody's being attacked or whatever it is, and you intervene. So in that sense, practically, you would expect people to go and intervene in those kind of circumstances. And if you translate that into a bigger picture, then yes, it's justified. But the letter of the law, it isn't justified.
You see, that's the thing. He seems to follow the letter of the law when he wants to. So, for example, the 1966 treaty for the Chagos Island surrender deal. In that treaty, it says that the UK must remain sovereign in the US for the US to have the base there. And that was the agreement. Suddenly, he was able to ignore that.
Yes, I mean,
how come he's able to ignore an international treaty, but yet somehow he has to give it away, and if he doesn't, he's breaching international law?
Well, I mean, verging into integrity for politicians, aren't we, and leaders? And the fact is, if you're going to show integrity, you should be showing it on all issues. And if you're going to take one particular way of doing it, you should try to apply that across all issues. I understand the issues are complex, they're not always the same. We have different sympathies for some of those things. I mean, the Chagos Islands, I also know, we've talked about this before, and we don't have quite the same view on this. I mean, I view the deal on the Chagos Islands as, I'm not saying it's the best deal that could be done, but it gives us 100 years use of the Chagos Islands.
That's not long for a lease for a building or especially a country, you know that.
The world will be completely different in defence terms, AI terms, climate change terms, in 100 years.
You don't know what it will be. And also, I mean, you've bought a house. If you ever buy a house and the lease is like 99 years, they go, what? Don't think. No, everyone sees that is not even really. Is it 2 generations living in the property? Not so much. I mean, so let's be realistic here. And as Trump says, leases between countries don't work. I mean, look at what happened with Hong Kong.
I think I can agree with you that it's better if we hadn't gone down that direction.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's seismically bad either, because I don't think the position we're going into now is that terrible.
Well, I think it is, because what we're seeing now with Iran is this base, Diego Garcia, is actually quite an important strategic position. So I don't really see why we would be foolish enough to give it away. They're now saying that it's going to cost us billions to get out of the deal because the treaty hasn't yet been ratified. But actually, if it is, I'd rather pay the billions to get out of it than the billions to stay into it, because I suspect the billions to stay in it are much more. Well, I'm joined now by the former Deputy Speaker of the Israeli Knesset, Moshe Phelan. Moshe, welcome to the programme. Thank you very much for your time. We were talking about Keir Starmer, so I want to put it to you. How do you feel that the British have responded to this situation currently?
Well, honestly, I was not surprised at all. The direction the United Kingdom is taking for the previous years are very clear. There is no moral clarity behind all these high legal words. What your prime minister simply don't understand is that this war is between good and evil. This is what we're talking about. And when you're not to make, when you're standing in front of a situation like that, where this Islamo-Nazi regime, okay, that stands behind killing tens of thousands of civilians all around the world, okay, including its own civilians, again and again for over a decade, since the 70s actually, when a regime like that is preparing an atomic bomb and ballistic missiles and declare openly for 15 years, or actually 20 years, that they're going to erase the Jewish state, the one and only Jewish state. They're going to finish the job that Hitler did not finish, okay? When a regime like that, and when evil like that appears in the world, and we saw at the 7th of October exactly what it means, worse than the Nazis, very proud, religiously proud of what they did. Just as the long hand of the Iranians, okay? We see the face of the evil over here. So we have a war against evil that wants to take over all take over the whole world, including London, as you know very well. When that war starts and the Prime Minister of England says, like the three monkeys, I did not see, I did not hear, I will not talk. Okay, that puts the what was the United Kingdom of England in a very bad moral position.
Well, and I'll just reiterate that, and I said this yesterday, that doesn't necessarily reflect the views of many of the people in the United Kingdom, by the way. So some of the things that we've seen, a lot of us are not happy with the direction and the behaviour of our Prime Minister. I personally feel that he looks very, very weak on this. Are you finally, in a sense, relieved? Not that you're seeing strikes in other countries, of course, that's not the point, but that finally the other Arab countries are looking and saying, hold on a minute, because actually they're getting a taste of what you've had to go through for many years, and now finally they've been trying to pacify Iran because they wanted to prevent military strikes. They've been mediating diplomatically. But are you now pleased to hear them now speaking and understanding what you've been through?
Well, I don't count on that. I don't trust that as well. Obviously, the victory over the Iranian regime is definitely in the interest of many other Arab countries as well. But I want to make it very clear: we, the Israelis, we are not fighting this war just because of our own interest, just to survive. That's not the point. And that's not the reason why the Israeli state, the Jewish state, were established to begin with. This is not the reason why the Jews appeared in history to begin with. We represent the good against the evil. This is our deep story. This is what we are here for, okay? And when evil like that appear, we have to fight it. I'm very, very proud that the soldiers, the pilots, the Air Force that killed this satanic Khamenei, okay, were Israelis and not Americans. I'm very happy about it. That kind of evil we have to destroy by ourselves. I'm very happy that we are standing together with the Americans, but I'm very happy that the force that started this operation was Israel. The symbol here is very important. Every person in the world, and definitely in England, should decide today, where are you standing with? Who are you standing with? The good or the bad side of history? Decide today.
Okay. Well, listen, it's been really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. The former Deputy Speaker of the Israeli Knesset, Moshe Reilin. Thank you very much, Moshe. All right, well, this is coming up to 48 minutes after 3 o'clock. Still to come, more reaction to the news that 3 US servicemen have been killed during the conflict in the Middle East. I'll be bringing you all of that, and we'll head over to the States, the latest. This is GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. It remains fairly unsettled across western parts of Europe, the risk of rain at times, but further east, some pleasant spells of sunshine. So for Monday, a weather front giving cloud and outbreaks of rain across Madeira into western parts of Portugal, showers for Spain across into the Alps as well, but further east towards Greece and Turkey, it's dry with some pleasant spells of sunshine and generally light winds, and it remains very similar over the next few days. Plenty of sunshine to come.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/